right, everybody. So we were actually all lined up today, and then right before we started, the GM started talking, and that talking turned into ranting, and that ranting turned into screaming about he's the only one who ever wants to run games, and he wants to be a player, and that we're contributing to the forever GM problem. Really, we were all kind of confused because everyone in the table ran games. We were just kind of not really sure what he was screaming about, but he was screaming, and then he packed up and went home. So I guess session's canceled?
I just started imagining if that actually happened to me in real life, like that somebody just lost their shit and it was just like, fuck it, I'm taking my books and leaving, and just like start like, that's a lot. There's a lot going on there.
No, 100%. Yeah, because you'd just be like, we all run games at this table. What is he talking about? Like, well, you'd get mad more than anything else. You'd just be like, the confusion would turn to anger. Like, why are you screaming? What are you yelling about?
I mean, for our particular group of people, yes. But like, I think even if it was a case that they were the only person that ran games, I'd still be like, well, that was out of nowhere. Like, I don't know.
Look, you could also be just like, why are you yelling? It's 6:30 in the afternoon. What the fuck is wrong with you?
It's too early. Or it's too late for this, I would say. Too early. I can't talk.
It's fine.
He's typing. He's typing.
No, look, my brain's been cooked. Hey, look, the femoid is texting me. Apologies.
You can't. Don't perpetuate this. Don't do it.
No, you don't get to fucking say that to me. No, you of all people don't get to say that to me when you carry on with this fucking joke, despite the fact that Leah has actively threatened to murder you for it.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying don't be like me. Be better. Don't perpetuate the problem.
Oh, I see. I see how it is. Rules for thee, but not for me, apparently.
No, I'm admitting I shouldn't do it either. I just can't help myself. Probably not.
Okay, then I don't want to fucking hear it.
That's what I'm saying. You should stop. Then you set a good example.
Oh my god, a good example that you will not follow.
There's a chance.
Is there?
Yeah. I didn't say it was a high chance. I said there's a chance.
All right. Okay.
So you're telling me there's a chance.
0.000000019 is not a great fucking chance.
It's like a 1%.
I like that you're not arguing for like a 5, 10, 15, 20, 1%.
I'm not going to go that high. I know how I am. When I have a joke, I stick to it, just like D's nuts.
It's crazy that he made a D's Juts note in referencing the fact that he makes D's Juts notes. Or D's nuts jokes.
D's Jut notes? D's Jut notes? What the
brother,
fuck?
My day has been unbelievably
just made up 3 words. What the fuck?
Oh my god, brilliant start. Okay, well... Almost 5 minutes in, welcome back to the Sessions Canceled podcast, where it's me and Josh.
Yeah.
This man always says, give us time to introduce ourselves, and then just leaves me hanging in the dead air. That's...
I don't. The way you said it made it seem like I was supposed to say like something else, or I don't.
Like a hi. I don't. Yeah, I
was confused. I was
I'm about to flip this table.
I'm sorry. There's no table.
There's my big ass L desk with my several $1,000 computer on it. I'm about to flip this table.
I mean, I'm not there, so I wouldn't recommend it.
All right, then I will go to your house and flip your table.
Also rude.
Mutually assured destruction. Anyway, we're back this week, and Josh is back from the mountains. And while he was away in the mountains...
I was on the beach. I don't...
Oh, okay, fair enough. While he was away at the beach...
Why'd you say the mountains? Wait, what?
Because my brain autocorrected to Vermont, despite the fact that we're in fucking August.
I was gonna say, no, definitely not.
But in that time, I didn't do my homework. I really had nothing planned. So I went on the good old Reddit, you know, to look for some
I feel
inspiration.
like we should stop admitting to this.
Look,
I feel like we shouldn't say when we've done homework or not. We should just have the times where we don't do homework and just pretend like we did.
I think it's funnier when we just admit that we had homework and didn't do it. You know, it really it makes us feel really like casual. It makes us feel like we're one of the people, you know, even though we
personable.
have less than 100 subscribers.
3 short, baby. 3 short.
3 short, baby. But yeah, I didn't do my homework, and then panicking 2 days ago to look for a topic, I browsed the ye old Reddit,
the darkscape.
I found a discussion that kind of irked me on a personal level because
he spiraled.
I did spiral, and I wrote 2 full pages about it in paragraph format. So homework done, just really late, just like high school. Now we're gonna get into it.
Speak for yourself on that one.
What?
Late homework in high school.
Oh, no, I did every homework assignment the day it was due, 15 minutes before the class it was due. And in that one situation that I talked about on podcast during the class that it was due under my desk without looking at what I was typing.
I hate that deeply.
Look, you know, what's that saying? Like lazy people are the biggest innovators or something like that?
Oh, I thought it was given enough time and desperation, anything will be turned into a bong.
That is also a good one.
And very true.
Yeah.
Can I just say, by the way, speaking of, this is a stupid tangent, but I don't know, you might appreciate it. So like, I was on vacation, so we were passing around. Speaking of the weeds, the devil's lettuce, we were passing around the bowl, and I done committed the party sin twice in a row.
No.
So you got the bowl, so it's the kush, as you will, is kind of sitting, loosely on top. Don't blow out when you have the pipe in your hand, because then all of the weed flecks just wee into the air. And I was hammered, so I didn't pull it away from my mouth fast enough before I breathed out. So I blew the weed, the smoldering weed particles everywhere twice.
Crazy.
Onto myself, by the way. Done ash myself. Anyway, I don't know. I was having a moment.
That just reminds me of when we were at your house. And I think, was it you or Crystal that I bumped into and the glass just fell and shattered all over the stairs?
Oh, that was me. Yeah, you broke my new wine glass. I was so pissed.
I broke nothing. You're the one who dropped it. But
nah,
the look on our faces as we both looked down at the glass and looked back up at each other, and me laughing and you just completely deadpan.
I was deeply saddened. I just bought that fucking thing. I bought it in Salem.
I have a bad habit of breaking glassware that you just purchased.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I'll miss that sweet potato vodka.
Yo, I forgot about that one. I didn't
so
buy
mad
any
at myself
this year.
Oh, what?
I forgot. I just thought about it just now.
It's fine. Make another 4-hour drive down to Cape May.
4-hour trip, yeah. Anyway, we're way off topic.
So off topic. Not even 10 minutes in. So proud of us. Now, as you may have been, as you may have been able to guess from my once again subpar cold open, the topic for today is one near and dear to my heart. As someone who is the Forever GM in my group, is the Forever GM narrative real? And if it is, does it need to stop? Do we need to stop perpetuating that narrative?
Stop. Get some help.
Yeah. And like I said, I found this quite the thread on Reddit, and a lot of points in this thread that I fundamentally disagree with because it's more nuanced than that. Surprise, surprise, isn't it always? So I figured, fuck it, we're going to talk about it today.
Do you think the idea of it being called a thread is being somewhat lost to time?
Maybe.
Right?
Maybe. Yeah. Well, so because threads were like...
Threads come from forums.
They do come from forums, but threads were like a big thing on Tumblr, which is basically defunct now. Like, people still use it, but like, not really, you know?
Yeah.
You get like...
I know somebody who uses it every day.
Is it the missus?
It is.
Well, I mean, look, she was, to her own admission, what do they call them? A super, what is it? Super Hulak?
Yes.
Yeah, she's one of those. She's a super Hulak girly. So like that tracks. Is the only other person I know who still actively uses. Well, yeah, was.
We got to give her credit. Was.
Right. The only person I know that still uses Twitter was also one of those. So like, yeah, no. There seems to be a brand. That's all I'm saying. But those are really big on Tumblr, which again, now almost defunct. And like Reddit uses them, and it's in the exact same format of truncated lists that shift inwards with indents. But it doesn't feel like it a lot of the time. And Discord has threads. We're so fucking off topic again. But those don't feel like threads.
No, Discord definitely feels different.
Odd. Anyway, to the point, I'm not going to read this whole paragraph, but we will leave a link to it.
It's not actually that long.
Okay, fine.
I don't know. It's not that long.
OP's post says, the forever GM narrative has to die. Both here and in other places, I constantly read about people complaining that they are a forever GM, talking about how much work it is and how they can never enjoy being a player. And I think the whole narrative surrounding it is a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. People complain so much about having to GM that people think if they start GMing, they won't have any fun. But GMing can and should be fun. If we make it out to be this chore and service that you provide for other people, of course less people will be interested in doing it. Which of course leads to people complaining about being forever GMs staying that way. Personally, I feel that the whole narrative has led me to doubting myself, whether I should want to be a player more often. I got over it, but I got over it. I don't want to be a player most of the time. I far prefer being a GM. The
grammar,
the sentence structure here is not it, but nonetheless, the whole vibe you can get when people talk about GMing a lot of the time is really negative, and I think that needs to stop. Of course, there's also an aspect of the game design here where some games are really bad about offloading a bunch of work onto the GM, even though it's said to be a group effort. Most recently, I noticed this with Daggerheart putting both the Session 0 and Safety Tool parts in the GM section, despite there being no reason why this can't be a group effort. So do you think this is an issue, and what do you think should be done to change the situation? Small thing that I'm going to mention here, Session 0 and Safety Tools are the GM's responsibility.
I would say they're the GM's responsibility to facilitate.
Yes.
Not necessarily the GM's responsibility to be the sole decider of, but to facilitate. As in, like, kind of like how the host of the business meeting has to get the meeting going kind of thing.
Yes.
But
so,
no, I mean, yeah, I'm basically saying what you were saying. Like, yeah, I disagree that this person has an issue with that particular thing. I think that's a weird thing to take umbrage with.
Yeah. So to this end, to those of you who might not know what I'm talking about, what is the forever GM narrative? Basically, it's that many groups maintain one GM that remains as the GM for the entirety of that group's time together as a party, while the other players remain exclusively as players for that time together, and the GM is often left feeling burnt out or underrepresented, potentially a little unappreciated, and how hard they work, given that they just want to be a player sometimes. Is this a real thing? Sort of. You know? Like a lot of things, and much like Josh's earlier sort of op-ed piece, it's a little more complex than that. In my opinion, I wrote in truth here. In my opinion, the situation stems from like a deeply multifaceted argument about player versus GM dynamics. And there's a lot of fallacies that get involved in that, and like purposeful and accidental alike, which then also leads into a talk about like general motivation and willingness to interact with the game or any game. If we're going to use this as a base, though, just the arguments presented here and some of the comments underneath, I think we can deconstruct the argument into a pretty basic for versus against paradigm and compare those two opposing points to see which one turns out to be more logic-based in its conclusion. And like, to be clear, this post is written from the perspective of somebody who participates more on the GM side than the player side, to their own admission. And
yeah,
I'm not 100% sure why they are doubting themselves. Again, that's kind of what makes this more multifaceted than just it is or it isn't. Because typically the forever GM thing is not about doubting yourself as a GM. It's about saying, God, I just want to fucking break sometimes. So it's a little odd, like the narrative here sort of separates from what I think it should be versus what the OP thinks it should. That, you know, there's a conversation we can have about that. The assertion that the narrative should die because of its suffusion sort of creates this weird Ouroboros effect because it tries, you know. I worded that really weird.
Yeah, I wasn't sure where you were going with that. I'm gonna be honest. You lost me a little bit.
The OP is basically saying that the narrative is creating this sort of never-ending cycle of GMs complaining about being players. The few players who become GMs get stuck in that loop, and they complain about being players, and you sort of lose the numbers as you go down the line in this sort of like snake eating its own tail situation.
It's a catch-22 situation. The people who are GMing are complaining that they're trapped as forever GMs, but the fact that they complain about being forever GMs makes other players not want to try and GM, so ergo they get stuck as the forever GM longer.
Yeah.
So it's a catch-22 is what it is. It's like, neither side wants to give. I don't even know though, to be honest. I don't actually think what this person is complaining about is the idea of the forever GM. I really feel like the problem that this person is actually having is the idea that GMing is like, I think what they're actually annoyed about is the assumption or the cultural vibe that GMing is more of a chore than being a player is. I think that's really the thing they're taking umbrage with. Like, they're looking at the forever GM aspect of it. Essentially what I'm saying is they're diagnosing a symptom. They're not actually diagnosing the cause. I think the cause is actually this mentality that GMing is a chore and GMing is deeply difficult and GMing is deeply, requires this heavy investment and all these things. And I think that mentality is then feeding into the symptom that is the forever GM problem. So
right.
I think they're almost misidentifying what they're mad about.
Right, and that's kind of what I meant to say. I probably didn't say it as well, but the unfortunate fact of the matter is that while it might not be a chore, it is undeniable that the GM has a higher workload than the players. Like, that's just the facts. You know what I mean? The players don't
most
really
of the time
have to do anything.
I would say most of the time.
I would go as far as say the vast majority of
the majority of the time, but I've seen a couple instances here and there where you could argue it's much more equal.
Do you have a for instance?
I have heard tell that Burning Wheel, for example, is surprisingly easy to GM, mostly because the prep of that game is essentially just you respond to the player. Like, all of your prep is just player did X, I will respond with Y. And like, that's all you end up doing in that game most of the time. And as long as you keep pushing against the player's traits, because they have bonds, flaws, and something else, I forget what they call them in Burning Wheel. And it's like, as long as you as the GM just keep pushing against those, the game will almost kind of play itself a little bit. In the same way that as when you are playing Apocalypse World, as long as you just follow the narrative, the game almost plays itself a little bit. It's kind of a similar thing. Actually, I would say Apocalypse World, the workload is pretty close to even between players and GMs. It's pretty close. Maybe not 100%, because you could argue that setting up the threat map / fronts is a little bit more work, but pretty minuscule amount of, like, not that much more work. Let's put it that way.
Well, so I would say even in the Apocalypse World situation, you as the GM still have to, you're not prepping in encounters, you're not prepping combat, but you are laying out steps to the story in a way that your players are not, right?
Right.
You are reacting to them, but you are doing a level of preparatory work to give them things to act against so you can react to them.
Right, but I would argue that your effort, the effort that you're putting in terms of making plans for where the narrative goes, is roughly equivalent to the amount of effort that the players are putting in terms of how their characters are going to think about and or react and or what their character is going to do next. Like, it's not, you're thinking about it for the world and the players are thinking about it for their character, but the amount of like mental load is actually not that split, in my opinion. This is with a slight assumption in that you're talking about invested players and an invested GM, right? Assuming everyone's equally invested in the campaign. Obviously, if you have a player who doesn't give a fuck, or a GM who doesn't give that much of a fuck, that's different. We're operating under the assumption that everybody cares.
Right, but even to that end, like, a player does not have to do homework, really, even in an Apocalypse World game. Whereas,
I'm kind of saying,
no matter what, still has to do homework.
Well, I'm kind of saying if they're invested enough, they do have to do homework. Like, what I'm saying is if you have a player who has that investment level, they do have to do a little bit of homework between sessions, in that they have to think about and consider, what's my character going to do next? How are they going to react to this thing that just happened? We just learned about X, Y, or Z threat. What's my response to it? Like, they do kind of have to do that homework a little bit, because Apocalypse World is not a game that assumes the players or the player characters are just going to like kick a door in and start dungeon fucking, right? So there is a little bit of an emotional homework required from Apocalypse World. That being said, the GM, do they have to do a bit more relative to players because they have to cover more angles? Sure. And does the GM probably commit more of their homework to actual notes than players do? Yeah, probably. But it's pretty close. Like, I think it's a closer it's a closer my brain wants to say disparity, and disparity is not the word. Closer workload than you might think.
Maybe.
But again,
for the sake of this, it is still more than the players.
Yeah, it is still a bit more, and I would say that for most games, I would say a game like an Apocalypse World or Burning Wheel are much more the exception. So, for a game like D&D, absolutely you're doing more work.
And
like, no question.
Yeah, and like, to Josh's point, right? It does lie, and I've said this twice already, it lies more in the it depends territory, because there are outliers, there are things that you should take advantage, that you should take a look into. And, you know, with games that most people are going to be playing, you know, your D&Ds, your Pathfinders, obviously different things nowadays, but those are still things that suffuse the industry. The onus is a lot higher on the GM.
You're fabulous.
Yeah, you're fabulous. The onus is a lot higher on the GM. And to the other point, it is still work, you know? So yes,
well,
while GMing should be fun, it's still work.
On a feelings, on a vibes kind of sense, I do think it's worth pointing out that if you're really vibing with the campaign and the game is doing well, GMing can almost feel like not work or less work in a way if you're really on that flow and everything is like, well, maybe I shouldn't say it's not work, like it's work, but
so what you'd say is it feels less like a chore, as OP puts it.
Yeah. If the campaign's going well and you're on the vibe, it doesn't, like, let's put it this way. I woke up today at 5 a.m. to go to work, to run a stupid breakfast event, or to be a server for a breakfast event, whatever. I woke up at 5 a.m. I got home at like, I don't know, 11 or whatever. And I was doing campaign prep for a good 2.5 hours probably. And it didn't feel like any particular work because the campaign is going relatively well. We just finished we just finished like a sort of season 1 arc, if you will. Now there's new possibilities of the directions things can go in. It didn't, there was not this like deeply heavy onus workload homework vibe that was going on. So when it's going well, you know, it's almost like the work exists, but the work existing doesn't bother you, I guess.
I think that varies from person to person, because like I'm not having the most fun with Lancer right now for like several reasons. Mainly scheduling and like, you know, that inevitable thing where if you don't play for a while, your motivation to run dies.
Oh yeah.
But even when I was having a great time at Lancer, it still felt like work. It didn't feel like a chore, but it was like, okay, I got to sit down. I got to prep the combat. I got to make sure that my things are balanced. All that stuff happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's work in the sense that you have to like sit down and actively do it. But I don't know.
That's all I really mean. It's that you do have to sit down and do it.
Yeah, it takes work. Time out of your day. It is work in the very literal definition of the work of the definition of the word work, which is putting energy into a thing to get a result or whatever. What's the physics? Hold on. How was it defined in physics? It was like, no, that's not. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I know what you're talking about.
It's blank. I know, it's killing me. It's like the energy transferred to or from an object by a force acting on it. Yeah. It's work in that very literal physics kind of sense. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
The transfer of energy, I get. Yeah, that's the one I was doing. The transfer of energy.
And to this end, I do have to give OP like a little bit of slack, right? Because he's clearly not just played D&D, right? He's talking about Dagger Art. He's brought up other games. What?
I don't know. I don't know that I would assume this person hasn't only played D&D. This person may have looked at other games, but they may have only played D&D. I don't know. The way they're wording it makes me question it a little bit. I don't know.
Potentially, I don't know. I kind of had a similar thought, but yeah, I just the bringing up Daggerheart and
they're coming across as a person to. This is we're doing a lot of assuming here, but they're coming across to me as the kind of person who reads other games but is trapped only running D&D. Because it's the only thing their group wants to play is D&D, even though they want to play something, you know what I mean? That's how they're coming across to me a little bit. And I can't put my finger on why they're coming across that way, but that's, yeah.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, that's not exactly how I read it, but I could see why you would say that.
I could be totally off base.
But, I mean, like, this does lead into a different point. You know, like, if we're talking purely about the, you know, the work versus reward and how much work is GMing really, it depends from game to game. So as to what Josh said, right? If you are used to playing games that aren't D&D, or actually, to sort of take from later notes, I sort of blame D&D for this thing being a problem in the first place. Because it is the titan of the industry, and because it is so weighted against GMs in the play dynamic, you get into this issue where, yeah, GMing for D&D can be fun, can be fulfilling, can be a great time. But it's also a lot of fucking work. Like, when you think about...
The problem with the current paradigm is that the leading game of the entire industry does not help out GMs very much. And because it is the leading game, most people assume that GMing is an exponentially higher workload because the lead game leaves you hanging in a lot of regards. And so it perpetuates that mentality of, oh, other games must be like this. When in actuality, a lot of other games give you much more helpful tools and much better assistance about handling the GM side of the game. Not all of them. Some of them fucking suck at it. But a lot of them do way better than D&D does. And I think another thing that has perpetuated the problem, particularly when we're talking about the current era of tabletop games, when we're referring to 5th edition, the 2014 DMG was fucking bad.
It was, practically
for
speaking,
10 years.
Not useless, but not
Pretty
far
close.
off.
Pretty close. Pretty close to useless. And so, because the 2014 GM was fucking ass cheeks, and this is not even me bullying D&D. The guys who wrote the DMG said it was bad. All right? Chris Perkins is on record saying the 2014 DMG was not good. All right? So it's not just me. People who designed that book didn't like that book. So that, combined with the fact that 5e as a system in general doesn't do a great job of helping out the DM, has further perpetuated the problem. And because 5e is the front man, everyone assumes that a problem applies across the board when it doesn't necessarily.
Yeah. And
there are other games that are worse than 5e though. Shadowrun, I'm looking at you.
Shadowrun, I'm gonna say it. Lancer.
Oh, that's rough, bud.
Well, here's the thing. It's worse. I think how do I want to word this? The tools that Lancer gives you blows D&D 2014 out of the fucking water, and it's not close. However, the sheer amount of shit you're gonna have to build there, mate. The sheer amount of shit that you need to prep is so much higher. The stat blocks, more complicated. The Lancer has to be prepped like a game of math. Like, that sounds really stupid, but it's true. Because I have to go, okay, the players can do roughly this much damage and yes, you do this in D&D, but it's worse than Lancer, believe me.
It's worse than Lancer.
You go, they have to do this much math. Okay, well, considering that the players will always get 3 to 4 attacks depending on what they're doing, and then you have to take into account, okay, are they going to be doing actual damage or are they going to be doing reactor damage with heat? Okay, I have a hacker. Okay, so the hacker's going to be doing this. This will not count towards this kind of health bar. It will have to count towards this kind of health bar, and I'll have to keep track of structure versus reactor damage, and you have to shift those for different NPCs. And the fact that every NPC has basically unlimited customization does make things a little difficult when you go, okay, I have to sort of tailor these bad guys to not get absolutely pub stomped by the players. Give them higher reactor, give them this, give them that, but don't give them so much. Don't flood the action economy too much to where it just becomes this painful slug. Because I've done this 3 times now where I went, okay, well, I really don't want to flood them with super strong bad guys, so I'll give them a lot of weak characters, and that fight is still too easy. It just takes longer. When typically the minion things is supposed to speed things up, in Lancer it doesn't. Not even a little bit.
Yeah, I really don't want to hit you with the, I called that shit, but I remember when we were looking at Lancer, and I had the thought, I was like, man, this game seems like it's gonna be really tough to run. And you were like, yeah, it doesn't seem that bad. And I was like, I don't know, boss, I'm seeing a lot of math. That's gonna be a hard time. And yeah.
And you weren't wrong, but you also weren't 100% correct. I'm also a GM who goes, okay, well, the players blitzed past this fight, even if it's like a boss. I'm still in the camp of I don't care as long as they were they had fun, because my fun is still directly linked to them having fun. If they like what I'm doing, I like what they're doing. So,
I mean, I'm not necessarily saying it's like, yeah, you could do that. I'm just saying I could see the difficulty of prep on the wall for that game. Like, I could just tell from how it was constructed. I was like, this is gonna be, like, I could just tell that the math was gonna be a lot. Like, I could see
right. All I'm saying
how
is that
it wanted you to balance and everything.
Right. All I'm saying is that I'm likely having an easier time because I'm just okay with the math not working as long as I don't TPK my players. As long as I can get close to a desired effect, like.
But it's still taking up a lot of brain juice no matter what.
It is, yeah. It is absolutely taking up a lot of brain juice. And I do know, like, if I can GM fucking Lancer and have that work, I know I can do D&D, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lancer being a mech game just it helps just on the lowest level of mech's cool. Therefore, I want to do it a little more.
I mean, yes, like a theme and vibe of game is a deeply important seller to whether you're going to play the game, right? Listen, everybody take a shot. It's fighting game talk time. There's a fighting game out there called Them's Fightin' Herds. Which is essentially, it was originally a My Little Pony fighting game that got redesigned to be just like cutesy animal fighting game. And it's a sick fighting game. It has really cool mechanics. But I am right off of the rip less invested in playing Them's Fighting Herds because of the vibe and the aesthetic. Like, just off rip, right? So even though I know I've played it, I know it's a really dope game mechanically. I know it plays a lot like Skullgirls, and I fucking love Skullgirls. But the vibe of playing funny ice reindeer is just not as cool when I can play a game where I could be funny President Ninja Man instead. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's, like, yeah, vibe is a thing. So yeah, you being like mech's cool, so want to learn more, invest in learning this game. Yeah, makes sense. It's a valid thing. I also think D&D is slightly responsible for that problem too, because a lot of people don't understand how many different genres of RPG there are out there, and everybody assumes that everything is, heroic dungeon fucking fantasy game.
What you're saying is everyone thinks that video games are Minecraft or Fortnite.
Yes. Yes.
Or Skyrim. Yes. That's the one you used.
Yeah. Well, that's the one Matt used to use. Yes. Basically, yeah. Everyone thinks. People look at tabletop and assume it's all D&D in the same way that your grandma looks at video games and assumes it's all Fortnite. Yeah. Yeah. God damn it.
All right. Look.
It's true. Yeah,
if there was ever an argument that would have had me jump to your side, it was the research I did for this topic. Because I had to think about it a certain kind of way, and I was like, shit, wait.
But I do want to point out a little small thing, because Isaiah is talking about how Lancer is a somewhat stressful game to prep for because tight math. Just because a game has tight math, though, does not inherently turn it into a stressful situation. Sometimes it's just about how the game delivers the math to you, because Fabula Ultima is also a game about pretty tight math, but it's not, it delivers the information to you in a way that you can parse it pretty quickly. And most of the math is not so deeply complicated that you can't reverse engineer and parse it. So sometimes the way the information is delivered is really relevant too. Like having really complicated information, but delivering it in such a fashion that it is easily digestible is different than having complicated information and also making it hard to just literally just digest on a basic level.
That is fair. I will give Lancer the fact that the way it delivers the information to you is pretty clear and concise. I don't look at a stat block and I'm not, I can look at it and not feel confused.
I wouldn't say I was confused by stat blocks in Lancer or anything like that, but I will say I remember reading Lancer and feeling like the math was obfuscated a little far away from my taste. I was looking at the math and I was like, I don't know if this math makes sense as to why you went with this particular set of dice or this number. If I can't understand why you chose 5 damage for this ability versus 10 damage, if it's not clear why you went in one direction versus the other, that makes it inherently a lot harder for me to do my own thing, because if I can't understand the math, I'm hesitant to try and make my own stat blocks or make my own characters or whatever, because then I'm doing custom math, and if I don't understand the baseline of the math, it's a lot harder to do the custom math, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Granted, I didn't look at Lancer that closely, so perhaps if I looked at it more, I would start to parse it better.
Yeah, I mean, the very basic idea of Lancer's math, I'm not going to get into it really hard, but weapons that are meant to be stable, consistent, things like machine guns, right? Machine guns will do kind of the same damage no matter what. Those are pretty often arbitrated as flat numbers, whereas weapons that should be a bit more swingy, things like sniper rifles, being able to hit certain parts of the body, or rocket launchers, those typically have dice pools. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the cool lightsaber does 3 flat damage as opposed to 1d3 damage.
Oh, that's interesting. I should also point out, I fucking suck at math, so you got to make your math real fucking stupid for me to be able to easily get it. Just throwing that one out there. That is relevant. That's why when I try to reverse engineer the math in 5e, my brain does a hurdy, and I give up sometimes. Anytime I avoided doing my own stat blocks as much as possible in 5e, and the few times that I would adjust stat blocks, the bonuses and shit, we was winging it, baby. We was taking a good guess.
Oh, I think that was always so funny when Matt would be like, oh, so I really worked out the CR for this fight, and it isn't what I thought it would be. And I would just constantly go, oh, you care about CR? LOL, Lamau. Never once looked at it. we're just giving CR numbers, baby. I'm giving it numbers for prof bonuses. That's all I care about.
I mean, to be fair, I wasn't even talking about CR. I was referring to like to hit bonuses and shit like that. But yes.
Also just 5s.
That's what I mean. Yeah, because the math of 5e is not clear. It's obfuscated in a way that makes it difficult to parse, and then you just kind of have to say, fuck it.
That is actually, okay, that is something I do really like about Lancer, is that you have very clear, like they give your numbers very evocative, what's the word I'm looking for? Templates. So, you know, if you want an enemy pilot to have a +5 to an attack roll, right? Like we're just throwing arbitrary numbers out there. You give them the elite template to say, oh, well, they're better than most people. They are going to have a better prof mod. You know what I mean?
Fabula does that too, actually.
Yeah, I think the template system or the archetype system, whatever you want to call it, it's got a different name in a million different systems. I think that works really well. And D&D tries to do it by being like, you know, goblin versus goblin champion, but it don't work because champion is not a title. There's not human champion. There's not dragon champion. There's just
well, and
champion.
Also, again, D&D obfuscates its math. So it is incredibly difficult to try and understand from a pure number standpoint what makes the goblin champion versus what makes the regular goblin. You know?
Yeah. You also get some weird shit though, right? Where it's like,
oh yeah, when they ignore their own math.
Well, they ignore their own math, or when like a character is supposed to be cooler, but is like way cooler, right? You get like pirate versus pirate captain. And you're like, these are not the same stat block at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like pirate is random goober with like one short sword attack, and then a pirate captain, it gets like 3 attacks and like 2 bonus actions and all this crazy shit. Like one doesn't feel like a natural progression to the other. One is like goober versus boss.
Yeah. Yeah.
To be fair, they fixed that in 2024, but like, or they've kind of fixed it in 2024, but
kinda.
They've added more stat blocks that have given you more tools to like upgrade stat blocks. But yeah, it's still not super clear. Anyway, we are once again wildly off topic. When I first spoke about my thesis, I very specifically mentioned that I think there are a lot of fallacies involved with the Forever GM situation. And I feel like it's worth bringing those up because that is a bold like accusation, but one that I think is completely warranted. And I think
I should be before you continue, there's another fallacy that I feel like we need to address.
Oh,
the fallacy of that nobody listening has currently hit the subscribe button.
Oh my God, ladies and gentlemen, he did it. Brought it back.
I got it, Gamers. 40 minutes in, we got there.
40 minutes.
48 minutes in.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my damn. It's going ham.
Continue.
But yeah, I mean, I think that like, yes, that is a bold accusation to say like, oh, people are just like giving into fallacy and that's why this problem exists. But it's kind of true. And like, look no farther than the first comment on this post, which is, I think most Forever GMs are Forever GMs because they prefer GMing. I don't think that's true. Not across the board.
Wait. So
that person is saying, I don't think Forever GMs actually exist. I think you just have people who want to GM more than others. And I don't think that's true. I think that's the poster saying, I like GMing more than I like playing. OP likes GMing more than he likes playing. So everyone must like that. That's how the comment reads.
And
I don't think that's true.
I think that is probably a case of survivor bias.
Well, it's confirmation bias. It's right for me, therefore it's right for everybody.
Kinda. Well, the reason I say I think it's might be falling in the realm of survivor bias is because if...
Oh, you're thinking it's the I figured it out, so everyone can figure it out.
Kinda, it's like the people who pause the thought. the people who accept the GM chair and finally decide, okay, I'm gonna run, the percentage of those people who are more likely to also find running the game fun and are the ones who are willing to jump into the seat is a lot higher, right? If you take 10 people in a room and 6 of them want to GM, think GMing is fun, but 8 of them get in the GM seat, the 6 are gonna overcrowd the other 2 because the quote unquote survivorship bias is basically, well, we sat in the GM chair and we thought it was really fun, so everyone else is gonna think it's really fun, right? And you're kind of ignoring the 2 other people that didn't like it because they're the ones who died, quote unquote. You know what I mean? In their survivorship bias situation, they're the ones who quietly died, and so you ignore them because the ones who liked it are the ones you're paying attention to, because the ones who liked it are the ones who made it home, quote unquote. I'm thinking of that chart with the plane that has all the bullet holes in it. And the planes that made it home, they were like, oh, we should reinforce that part of the armor. And it's like, no, you should reinforce the other parts of the armor, right? That whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like, we're listening to the 6 GMs who said they really, really thought it was fun because they kind of crowded out the other 2 GMs who didn't think it was fun. I guess it's like a combination of confirmation and survivorship bias in a weird way. It's like smooshed together.
Yeah. And
so I understand why the person is saying that. Like, I get what they're coming from, where they're coming from.
And to that point, that's not to say that those people don't exist. Josh himself has said multiple times that he prefers GMing over playing. Cardell is the exact same way.
Yeah.
So these people exist, but I struggle to believe that that's the vast majority of people who are playing. Rather, to what Josh said as well, I think more often than not, the GM position is filled through necessity and like general willingness to expand your horizons rather than to fulfill and maintain one specific role at the table. You know what I mean? Someone goes, oh, well, I really want to play D&D, but we don't have a person to run the game. Fuck it, I'll just figure it out. I'll do it. As opposed to someone being like, we're playing D&D and I'm going to run this bitch.
Right. I mean,
more often than not, I find it to be the latter.
I get what you mean, for sure. I do wonder, though, is it a case that more... Like, if everyone was being 100% honest, right? Let's just assume you surveyed people and everyone was being 100% honest. Would the survey results bring back that a much higher percentage would prefer to be players, or a much higher percentage would prefer to be GMs? I don't know.
I mean, I think I think you have to expand your scope even farther. You'd have to give everyone the ideal game for them.
Right.
Well, as we've seen with D&D. With D&D, it is a pretty skewed,
yes, very skewed
ratio of more people want to play than people want to run.
You'd have to assume a couple things. Assume it's the game it's the perfect game for them, right? Assume it's their apocalypse world for them. And assume that they're going to run that game with like a good, basically assuming an excellent scenario, right? A good group, a game they like, an idea, a strong inspiration they have, right? Taking all of the like perfect dynamic scenarios into account. And then it's kind of funny. I say taking the perfect dynamic into account as if the perfect dynamic is like really hard to achieve. It's not actually that hard to achieve, but that's not the point. I think people think it's harder to achieve than it actually is. You just have to find some friends you like playing with and then find a game you like running, and like kind of the magic happens.
But anyway. I mean, Moon is a perfect example of this.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't even, I was just thinking about just the campaign I'm running right now. Like the dynamic is basically flawless. you know, and I didn't do anything special. I just players I know that'll probably work good together. Game I want to run, boom, bang, bang, smash it together. You know, like, but yeah, assuming an excellent group scenario, assuming all that good shit, would more people want to GM or more people want to play? I, again, also assume everyone's being totally honest because, you know, that's always a factor. I feel like it would be a pretty 50-50 split, honestly.
I think it would be closer, but I don't think it'd be 50-50. I still think you're looking at like 65-35. Because you have to, the thing that you still have to ultimately take into account is workload. Like a lot of people play D&D as like a stress reliever. Like I don't have to work, I don't have to think, I can just do funny voice and play game.
I know what you mean. I do. I
think, yeah, all right. But the perfect analysis is you have to look at like casual versus ranked to come up.
Right. Yeah. No, I do get, I get what you're getting at, but I have to wonder, because the thing about GMing is if you're into it, it gives you quite a like, gives you a bit of a power trip, you know, like it gives you this like I am the authoritative one, and that can kind of override the workload sometimes if you really if it really hits right, you know what I mean? So like I get, I don't know, yeah, I don't know, that's such a tough call, and there's no way to get an answer to is the unfortunate thing, but
right, yeah,
I think it would skew a lot. Let's put it this way. Assuming excellent scenario for everyone at the proverbial table, I think it would skew a lot closer towards the middle than most people would assume. Right? Because I think if you talk to your, if you talk to your average 5e player, they're gonna say it's like 85-15, right? Like most 85% of people want to be players. But again, assuming that good scenario, game you want to run, good group, you know, all that shit, I feel like it'd push a lot more towards the middle.
Like I said, I will give you that 100%. I still think it would be like a 65-35. But
yeah, I could kind of see like a 60-40 split, yeah. I could see it.
I almost want to say it, and this is, you know, maybe a little elitist, but like I think people who are more willing to run, I would refer to as like TTRPG hobbyists, because it's something that they're doing, they want to improve at, they want to expand their horizons on, versus casual players, right? You can play video games as a hobby, right? You play ranked, you try to improve, you're actively looking for things that you want to do, you're modding games, but you could also just be a casual player. Someone who doesn't want to think, you just want to load up game and play game.
You just, you load up Candy Crush or fucking COD or whatever and dick around with it, versus fucking dorks like us who have thousands of hours in games and like commit to improving at this game for no particular reason other than because you want to. Yeah.
Right. And I have to make this caveat.
There's a distinction there for sure.
I have to make this caveat because I know someone is going to yell at us, either one of our friends or a commenter. Yes, if you are someone who is a power builder in D&D, I would also call you a hobbyist. Yes. However, you should, I think, be taking some of that energy and putting it into learning how to run the game, because all you're doing when you do that is the shit that you're doing as a player. You just have a little bit more to do, but it gives you more things to do. Like, no,
honestly, I think basically anyone who's interested in the power builder type vibe of whether it be 5e or Pathfinder or whatever, basically any player, if you're a player who does that kind of thing, yes, you should try and GM, because you have that inclination in you already. It is there. You have the chutzpah. It's in your soul in some fashion. You're basically doing the GM thing anyway. You're just doing it on the other side of the table. So like, yeah. If you're trying to min-max how much damage you could do around with different class magic, if you're looking through if you're looking through every fucking class and subclass in the game, assuming 5e, and then you're looking through every magic item in the game, and you're cross-referencing, multi-classing this many levels of fighter with this many levels of sorcerer, plus this many levels of paladin, plus this magic item, you're doing GM work. That's what GM work is, right?
You are 1,000,000% doing GM work.
I'm looking at this monster and I'm cross-referencing, this area of the setting, and then I'm looking at this list of names and these gods and how do they fit together. Okay, that makes an adventure. You're just doing GM work, so like just fucking GM the game.
Yeah, 100% agree.
I hate that power builder shit, and you may have just identified the reason I don't like it. It's because it's wasted energy.
Okay, I wouldn't go that far, but
what I mean is like it's energy that could be put towards GM, like the energy that people put towards the power builder thing, I think would be better used if you tried to put it towards running your own game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that I'm more
even
inclined
if
to
it's
agree
just
with,
a couple of sessions. I could see it.
Yeah.
But I have a weird vendetta against that kind of person.
I definitely don't, but yeah.
I mean, maybe vendetta is a strong word, but like, I don't know. I just get frustrated because I always feel like it's like, God, you're just directing your energy in like a bad direction. I don't know. Anyway, we're done. Power builders are their own topic, so we don't need to keep going down that rabbit hole.
Kind of looping back to an earlier point about like D&D. Well, sorry, no, not D&D. Sorry, where is my notes?
I don't know. I got lost too.
Oh, right. Well, yeah, we talked about workload, but like it's worth, yeah. Well, no. So considering that we did talk about it more than I expected to, yeah, we're gonna skip past that.
Okay.
To the back to the point of levying blame. I do have to agree with OP a little bit in that GMs themselves are not free to blame, myself included. If you're a GM who wants to find a game to play, it actually is not that hard to find it if you take the steps to do it. But it is worth mentioning that GMs don't take those steps and will continue to be upset. You know what I mean? If you want to find a game to play as a GM and your friends aren't doing it, you can go on forums, you can go on Roll20's Game Finder, you can think about swapping more receptive players
Reddit,
into your
Roll20, Discord, fucking looking for group forum. Like, there's so many options.
There's a lot of options, yeah.
It's a lot of options, dude.
And again, I'm guilty of this, where my players don't like running. And I want to play as a player in my party. And there are steps I could take to make that goal a reality. But I don't.
Well, I do think it is worth pointing out too with this particular element of the conundrum, I guess. A lot of people are hesitant to try and find. People don't want to try and find randos to play with because they're worried about, meeting random people and them being fucking weird or whatever. Valid. Or them being unable to interact with those people because of X, Y, or Z, whatever it is. The thing you have to take into account, though, is going online to a looking for group subreddit or a Discord or something like that is a little different than just meeting some random people at a bar or meeting some random people at like a work event. The difference is you're all looking for fellow tabletop players. So you're all looking for a shared interest. It's a lot easier to get your foot in the door when you know that everybody is interested in the same thing, right? You're not walking up to a random group of people and saying, hey, do you guys know what D&D is? You're walking into a room where everybody already knows what D&D is and saying, who wants to play D&D, right? That's very different. So you really got to take that part of it into account, because the shared interest often will lead to much easier interaction right off the bat, because you already have something to talk about. Let's say you're a scrawny white boy nerd from like New Jersey who's, you know, like,
why did you
why did I say it like that? Because New Jersey. What do you mean? New Jersey, who's never left home, and you go online on a forum looking for fellow D&D players, and you match up with a group, you get a group going, and one of the guys you group up with is a southern biker from Texas, who wears leathers and is tattooed from head to toe. You would never speak to that man on the street, but you both happen to be D&D nerds, and all of a sudden you're talking to this person. It's an easy, it breaks the barrier down, because you know, at the very least, if you can't talk to him about anything else, you can talk to him about D&D. And that makes it that much easier.
It's true.
And you might find out he also really likes gardening, and you really like gardening, and then you're talking about gardening, and then you move to Texas, and now you're married. But that's beside the point. That's a little, you know, that's further down the road, but it can happen.
What an odd circumstance you built.
It is a weird scenario I've built up in my head, but it happens. Weirder shit is that, listen, I've seen so many stories of people being like, I met my girlfriend on WoW and now we're married. You know, like, it happens.
I've not met one of those, but that is impressive.
I've talked to people who have done that. We have people in our free company on 14 that have done that.
Oh my, is it? Oh God.
Sig,
yeah, okay, yeah.
Sig,
no,
Sig
sorry,
and
I was thinking Ven.
Jojo. Also Ven. Well, he didn't get married,
Ven too?
but yeah, also Ven.
Gotcha. And yeah, I mean, to this point, this whole hullabaloo, this is basic sunk cost. I put so much time into you, I don't want to start from scratch. But like,
yes,
you don't have to start from scratch. I think, and this might be a controversial take, parties should be, I don't want to say pruned, but they should be cycled every so often. And that doesn't mean like you kick your friends out and you don't ever play with them again, but like, perfect example is our D&D group, technically speaking, is fucking enormous. Like, when you think about the people who have played together, who will play together, who've talked about running games for each other, there's probably about 20 of us.
You mean, us specifically? Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, we got a lot of people.
Everyone in the Dungeons and Dragons server, everyone in my server, hell, even people in Luna's server and Cardell's server. Like, when you take into account all those people, and you're even talking about, like, you know, the outliers like Moogie, like her boyfriend, who I still don't have a screen name for because I can't ever remember what his actual screen name is, but I know it's not conducive to actually being a good screen name.
Fungi Beatbox or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah, no, I'm not using that one.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
When you think about all those people, that creates a very large party. Clearly, you can't have all the people playing at once, so it does make more sense to go, okay, I want you. And that party is technically big enough for me to do that too. There are players that I go, well, I really want them to play. Not that I don't want other players to play. You know, like, it's not that I don't want to kick anyone out of my current party, but there are other players I want to play with, and a party can only hit a certain size before I lose my fucking mind. So some of my current players might have to go, so I can try running for new people. And that sucks, but you also need to have the, you know, adult conversation to be like, hey, look, man, nothing against you. Not against anybody who I'm not playing with. We'll play a game together soon. Just we have to part ways for a little bit.
Honestly, we have a weird kind of unique reverse problem of this situation,
where we are spoiled for choice on players.
Yeah, we have too many players, and we have to tell people to like hit the road.
Yeah. It is unfortunate. Like,
yeah, of course, because you want it, like, everyone who's interested, you want to be able to, like, have in the game, but that's just not reasonable.
yeah, I mean, I've said it before. I think after Lancer, I'm going to just start doing like 6-month campaigns and just, you 3, you 4, you're with me, you 2, you're going to be on the next one.
Yeah, you just rotate. That's ultimately what it comes down to.
You don't have to do it. Hate to do it to them, but you got to do it.
It's an understandable compromise.
Yeah. And that really is all I have on this one. Like, it wasn't a long topic. It's just kind of something I was thinking about. And like, I don't know. It's not a great way to end this, but like, I guess in conclusion, do I think the Forever GM narrative is real? Yes. And even in ideal scenarios, would it still be real? Yes. But are there things that we can do right now as a community to skew those back in GM's favor? 100% yes. But to say that it doesn't exist, to say that like it's happening because it would happen like this anyway, like more people would want to be GMs forever, that shit's not true. Not for everybody, at least. And if that is you, don't assume that you're the majority, you know?
I mean, never assume you're the majority, that's for sure. I think part of the problem too is also that the concept of the Forever GM is framed very negatively when it doesn't inherently have to be a negative.
Well, I don't think that I think it's difficult to say that it's skewed negatively. It is a negative thing because it speaks to a greater underlying issue, which is burnout.
Well, you know, what I mean is that it's always framed in such a fashion that, oh, if you only GM and you never get to be a player, that is inherently bad, which is not the case. Because if somebody just doesn't have any desire and is perfectly fine with GMing all the time, then that's fine, right? Like, it has this default assumption that it's negative when it doesn't have to be negative. Like, I feel like focusing on the negative bit perpetuates the problem.
Oh, see, I've taken this from step one as an argument not of I'm a GM and I never get to play. It's I run more than I get to play, and I'm getting tired of running more than I get to play. I want to play as a player.
Right. If you're tired of it and you want to be a player, that's different. But I'm saying the community as a whole always frames this statement in a negative light. And making it always framed in a negative light makes it worse. Like, basically saying that being a Forever GM is bad makes people feel bad about GMing. And then if they've GM'd for a long period of time, they start to feel almost like a weird subconscious guilt about it. And then that puts it in like a weird perpetual cycle.
Interesting. Okay, so you are actually kind of agreeing with OP here when he like they talked about having like doubt or doubting themselves.
A little bit. I'm not saying that it's always good or always bad. I'm just saying people should be careful about framing it negative by default. Because I feel like I always see when somebody brings up the phrase Forever GM, they almost always mean it as a bad thing. I very rarely, if ever, see anyone say, I'm a Forever GM, but I like it that way. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, so I think it kind of is innately a bad thing when you look at it from the perspective of it's just another way of saying GM burnout.
If it's another way of saying, well, yeah, that's the thing. Right?
Every person I've ever spoken to who are like, I'm the Forever GM. That's the like, I really wish one of my players would fucking step up so I can be a player for once. That's. Yeah. I would go as far as to say that is how it is most of the time. It's not that GMing a lot is bad. It's not that like, it's that GMs are saying there aren't enough people who are willing to play as GMs, and I want to be a player. If you don't want to be a player, you're not really part of that argument. You're not really part of that conundrum. And I think people lump them together, which I think is what OP's problem is.
I guess what I'm saying is, I mean, yeah, I guess I'm sort of erring on a little bit of an agreement with them. I guess what I'm saying is that I don't like that GM burnout and forever GM are becoming synonymous. I feel like that is a bad habit.
That I can agree with.
They shouldn't be as synonymous as they are.
But I also don't think, I think forever GM began as a phrase to shorthand GM burnout. I think that was the inception of the idea of forever GM, of someone who's been thrust in the position of running a game and probably did really like it at the start. But it's the monotony of being like, all right, guys, we just finished the campaign. What are we doing next? And then it's crickets, and it's like, no one wants to run anything. And it's more crickets, and you go, all right, fine, I'll fucking figure it out.
Yeah, I mean,
so you know what? I think we should change the name. You have forever GMs, derogatory, and then you have a career GM. What's the word?
Non-derogatory.
Yeah, affectionate.
Yeah,
you have career GM, affectionate, and forever GM, derogatory.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, I guess that's probably true. Yeah, it was born as a shorthand. I could certainly see that. I mean, I don't know. I don't think you had any suggestions to how to fix the problem, right? Because I do feel like we should perhaps offer.
Oh no! I mean, I brought them up a little bit. First things first. Play different games. Read different games. That's ultimately what 99.9999998% things come down to. If you don't like running a game, how many games do you know about running? If the answer is just D&D, read more fucking games.
Yeah, if you look at other games, there's a good chance you will not feel as burnt out as a GM if you find a game that jives with you better and how you run.
Inversely, as a player, you should also be reading rule books because they're a guarantee you
to find a game you might want to run.
Yeah, who never wants to run a game will find one that's literally Moon. She's gonna run Kane in a few weeks.
Yeah.
It's doable. Right. You just gotta find the right thing.
That was the one. Yes, that was the one. That was the main suggestion I was going to give is that looking at other GMs. I was about to say other GMs. What? Looking at other games will get your GM hackles a going because there's a good chance you will find a game that just jives with you better. Again, this feeds back to that problem of everybody assuming that the fantasy dungeon fucker game is the only kind of game in town because D&D is the king, and so everyone just assumes that's how all tabletop games are, when there are in fact many tabletop games out there. There's tabletop games about being a fucking guy in an office, and there's tabletop games about being angry lesbians in a dungeon, and there's tabletop games about running robots, and there's tabletop games about dying to the horrible manifestations of sin-filled monsters. You got lots of options out there.
You know what's funny? There's a PBTA game about being a professional wrestler. I can't remember what it's called.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm also blanking on the name, but I was exactly what you're talking about.
I low-key would play it. I'd play in this. If you ran it, I'd play it for sure.
Yes.
And to be fair, Luna's also a professional wrestler on the indie circuit, so I know he could do it well.
Yes. Oh God, what is that game called? Wrestling. I know. Of course, I've Worldwide Wrestling.
Yes.
Worldwide Wrestling. That's the one you're looking for. Yeah, of course I've heard of that game. What a surprise! Anyway, yeah, there's games about fucking everything under the sun that isn't just fantasy dungeon fucking. So yeah, look at other shit. The other option, if you are the forever GM derogatory in this scenario, and nobody else is that interested in running a different game other than D&D, but you really want to be a player, just hold your players hostage.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is finish the campaign, look your players in the eye and go, okay, we're done now. If you guys want to keep playing, someone else has to run because I need a break. I'm not running anything. End of discussion. If we want to keep playing, one of you guys can run something and I'll be a player, but I'm not running anything. No questions asked. I'm not running anything after this campaign is over. And you just hold them hostage and you'd be surprised. Because you got to think about statistically, if you have 4 people at the table, good chance one of them will step up. Right? 1 in 4 chance. Not bad odds. So sometimes just hold those motherfuckers hostage. Because when your back's against the wall and you have no choice and you really want to fucking play D&D, you're like, fuck it. I will run it this time. I'm not saying you should do that every time, but it's absolutely an option to put in your back pocket. Obviously, and you know, frame it nicely. I don't know. Well, maybe not. I don't know. You know your players. Maybe you should frame it like an asshole, but frame it in a way that your players will be receptive to it. Let's put it that way.
Now, you might say, what if no one wants to play? Because there's literally a post. There's a comment under this post about, I told my players I didn't want to run, and then they all ghosted me.
Mm-hmm.
You can just get unlucky. That is a possibility.
It is. I would argue, I'm going to be honest, I would argue if you have a group where you're the GM and you say, all right, guys, campaign is done. This is assuming that you ended the campaign with a satisfying conclusion, right? Like we're not assuming that things sputtered out or you burnt out and gave up or anything. We're assuming you had like a proper end of story arc campaign conclusion. If you have that conclusion and you look at your players and say, all right, the campaign's over. I'm not running anything for a while. So if you guys want to keep playing, somebody else has to run. And they just get you, they just respond to you with crickets. Might not be for the group for you, Chief.
Yeah.
Might need to look for another group. I'm gonna be honest. If they respond with crickets, might need to look for some new homies. You know, like, and I don't mean, to be clear, that sounded especially mean. I don't mean stop talking to them as friends or whatever. Like, you could be friends with them, but they might not be your D&D friends, maybe. You know what I mean? Like, you might need to look for a different group because they're just not jiving with what you're putting out. Like, you could have a friend who's like, a good buddy who you like play pool with and hang out at the bar with, but he's never played a video game a day in his life. So you're not going to ask him to hop on Fortnite with you. That's just not going to happen. But he's still your friend. It's just, you don't do that activity with him. You could have a group of friends, and if they just look at you with crickets in that scenario, they just might not be the right D&D buddies. You might just need to find a different group of D&D buddies. Or maybe it's just 1 or 2 people. This is the other thing. You could have a group of 4 and you look at them and you say, all right, I'm not running. So if you guys want to keep playing, somebody else has to run. And they don't really say anything. And then one guy, Bob or whatever, Bob's is like, all right, well, I'm gonna head out. And then Bob leaves. And everyone else sits there for a little while and goes, well, I mean, if Bob's not here, I might run. Because I don't know if I really like playing D&D with Bob, but I'll run it for you guys. That can happen too. So like, sometimes the group gets, the dynamic gets shifted around a little bit. It's all about, it's a fucking group activity at the day. It cannot be done. Well, there are solo RPGs out there, but it's primarily a group activity. If the dynamic's not right for that particular activity, then the dynamic's not right. Like, that's just kind of the end of it. Like, I'm not gonna. I'm trying to think of how to say this without putting anybody on blast. Like, okay. I'm not going to invite any of my friends to go work out with me because they're just not on that vibe. That doesn't mean I have an issue with them as friends. I just know that everybody else is not on the vibe that I am in that regard. So we just don't do that thing together. You know what I'm saying?
To be fair,
does that make sense?
Right.
I don't ask people, but I also know how I am, and I know that nobody else is really the way that I am. You know what I mean?
So my thing with the gym was, and I went to the gym with Luna for like 2 years straight, is don't ask me to do weird workouts. Like, I'm not gonna there was one day where he was like, we're just gonna do the cable machine all day. And I was like, no, it's shoulders and biceps for me today. I'm not doing the cable machine. I'm gonna do the thing I do, and I'm gonna be here for like an hour, and then I'm going the fuck home. I'm not here to be at the gym for 3 hours.
Okay, well we're not gonna go down the workout thing because that's a whole other different conversation. But I just the point that I'm broadly making is that you can be a friend with a person and not be a D&D friend with a person.
Yes.
And sometimes you gotta sniff that vibe out a little bit. You gotta get a feel for it. But sometimes, you just gotta hold your friends hostage. It be that way.
I might try that. The next go around.
Holding them hostage.
Yeah.
It's, it works more than you would think. Again, it is about the execution too, though, right? Like how you hold them hostage. How you deliver the information.
Well, I have a gun, so.
All right, perhaps don't do it that way.
Okay, just checking.
Maybe not. Well,
maybe you never know. Wait. I was gonna say, now you confused me. Gun on the table or gun not on the table? I feel like I'm getting mixed.
I would say
here.
Gun not on the table at first.
Right, gun under the table.
Under the table, yeah, we can go with under the table, and then if you need to put it on the table afterward, then you can think about it.
Gotcha. Okay, now you're thinking about portals.
Yeah. Exactly. That was I just wanted to offer some cures to the problem in case anybody was curious about.
No, I mean that's true.
Those are my main two tricks, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I think the universal trick one, read more games, I think is
more games. The one that comes up all the time.
Yeah, it really is the great solution. Just read more fucking games.
It is some powerful wizardry.
But
replace wizardry with another word, if you know what I'm saying.
That's wild. But if I were to offer a secondary solution,
well, tertiary in this case.
Tertiary solution, yeah. I would say yeah, I mean, I hate to say this, but like, I'm going to go back to what I said before. Sometimes you got to tailor make your party. And that might not always be the party with all your friends in it. And that sucks. But,
or it just might not be the group of friends you expected.
Yeah, yes. It might not be your original party is what I mean. Like the ones you've been playing with for 5+ years. You might be down a player or two, but you could have another two players who fit the vibe just as well, if not better.
Yeah.
Never give in to the sunk cost, essentially. Never be like, I'm too stuck in the weeds.
Well, and sometimes it's just the game in question, right? If you're running a different game, if you went from playing fantasy dungeon fuckers to playing, I don't know, communist mecha space game, some people just might not be on the vibe for the mech game as much, so they're like, I'll sit this campaign out.
We did lose
sometimes
Ant
it's just how
going into Lancer.
Exactly. Yeah. So sometimes people will just cycle out on their own, which is honestly a lot of the time best case scenario, because then you don't have to awkwardly kick somebody out. It's usually better if they're like, not as interested in this game. That's usually better. Yeah,
I mean, that is something to be said about being like, just deciding we are playing a different game and letting letting the situation tailor itself.
Let the group decide if they're into it or not.
You know what's funny? Like, it seems pretty clear that more players of mine would prefer to be playing Monster Hearts full time than Lancer. And that makes me laugh because I offered Monster Hearts at the same time as Lancer. I said it was one of these two games.
Right.
And everybody no one really seemed into either. And you know, when I did give them the content warning of like, hey, Monster Hearts can go weird places, they did go, well, that mechs are a safer option even if I know less about them, because I don't necessarily want to go weird places. And now we're playing the answer.
Well, you know, I think Monster Hearts is one of those games that the upfront sales pitch is not the strongest.
True.
Until you play it.
True.
Like, Lancer as a concept is like space mecha mercenaries. That's a pretty like cool, easy sales pitch. Whereas, you know, teenage vampires with angst and feeling, a little bit of a harder sales pitch on the first round.
And fucking.
A little trickier of a sales pitch on that initial, you know, the elevator pitch is tougher.
Yeah, that is fair.
Which I think is honestly one of the main reasons that D&D is still the king of the industry, because fantasy adventure dungeon fucker is a really easy elevator pitch.
It is.
It's just an easy one. Everybody can go, oh, I've watched Lord of the Rings, and you're like, yeah. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's just how it goes.
Okay. I think now, I think we're done.
You said now like we're about to go like do something else dramatic. We're not going anywhere after that. We're not doing anything.
No, I mean, I will be playing Helldivers, but like, that's about it.
Video games.
Video game. Give us a sub on either YouTube or social media platform of choice. We don't really care anymore. Appreciate it. That'd be real nice. And we'll see you next time, when I definitely also don't do my homework until the last few seconds.
Tune in next time for Isaiah gets mad at some other random internet guy.
I do that a lot.
I know.
I got mad at a YouTube video earlier before we started recording because it was a guy who was building a Gundam kit and he like painted it looked gorgeous, but he didn't fucking hobby cement the pieces together so you could see the cracks in the plastic, and I was just like, why? And you can't fix it now because then you'd have to completely fucking repaint it, and it's like, you must have put dozens of hours into this and you forgot step 2. You built the plane but didn't put in the engine. What is wrong with... Anyway. I'm gonna stop myself now before I go off again.
I have nothing to add to this.
That's fine. Don't worry about it. Look, that's been us. We've been sessions canceled. Peace, motherfuckers. I'm out.
It has certainly been us.